evening, and welcome to another episode of Unstoppable Overcomers. I'm your host, Dorothy Odell this evening, founder of Unstoppable Overcomers Productions. And tonight, I have the distinct pleasure of bringing a fellow Canadian on the show. Welcome, Kevin. How are you, sir?
Hey, great. Thanks for having me on, Dorothy.
Absolutely. So, if you could tell the audience a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into your overcoming story.
Oh, sure. I don't know if it's overcoming, but it's been a very interesting journey. How's that?
It
5 years
always is.
old, it's kind of funny. I think that's what the great thing about life is. Like we all have our own stories and how we hear, and it's when we hear other people's stories that we really connect and become like enthralled with like, oh my God, it's so interesting what's going on, right? I look and I go, there's no big deal. It was just my life. And here I
Exactly.
go. My dad, 5 years, I was 5 years old. I told my dad, I want to go to pro hockey. He's like patted me on the head, said, yeah, good luck, like see you later. Right. And
Right.
37 years later, I got the call from the Central Hockey League. I went and became director of business development. I got to the I wrote a book, and the NHL bought 50 of my books, and I sat on the advisory board with them with diversity, which is now Hockey is for Everyone. And I got to work with different teams right across North America, sitting on boards, strategic meetings, planning. I even got to speak to 200 kids in Buffalo, which of course is close to Toronto, and so it was an easy drive. And Willie O'Ree was there, and NHL guys, and it was just like this, pinch me, like this is amazing, and didn't make it as a player, wasn't good enough as a coach or a scout, but when I got into the business side, it was like, oh my God, this is like a no brainer. And that was really kind of a lot of my journey. It was kind of funny because went to college, worked in corporate jobs, did the thing. And the whole time in those 37 years, it was always about, I'm going to make it to hockey. I don't know when, I don't know how and where, but I'm going to do it. And it took this journey. Then when I got there, it was like, okay, so now what?
Yeah, exactly. Isn't that the thing, we go for something all gun ho, then you get it and you're like, okay, now what? Like
Exactly.
seriously.
Yep. And it's funny. The best analogy I heard was, if you think of mountain range, and there's peak to peak to peak, right? And
Mhm.
a goal is nothing more than a peak. So you get to the peak, and when you're there, you're looking at the next peak to go, oh, I want that one. And then you look at that one, you're like, oh, I want that one. And it's just this journey in life. And the definition that I heard a long time ago, which I kind of think it resonates with everybody, is life's a destination, not a journey. Like it actually is the journey. Like the journey is the destination, right? You just keep going along, right?
Right. And I love that you said that, because we get so caught up in how are we going to get to there. We don't sometimes appreciate the journey along the way or the life lessons, right? And everybody thinks it's like a mistake, but I don't know about you. Nothing in life has been a mistake. It's just been a lesson.
Oh, huge, right? And it's easier said than done, by the way, right? Like
Yes.
we can all go, really? How did this happen? Why me? I was in a good mood.
Yeah.
And it's enough to poke. It's like poking the bear, right? Like, did you ever notice like you get upset at the time that you're not thinking you're going to be upset, right? And it's something in you that's got to be resolved.
Yes. I am so glad you said that. I've been having this issue with a family member for about a year now. And as soon as I see this family member, I like tense up. I just like, oh, right. And I'm like, so this weekend, for those of you that know Kathleen Cameron, she's an amazing money coach out there, a manifestation money coach. And so I had taken a couple of her trainings recently, and I'm telling you, I'm like, okay, because everything I hear is inner work, inner work, inner work, right? So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to sit down and I'm going to do the exercise. Within 10 minutes of me sitting down and doing the exercise, there was a shift inside of me how I looked at this family member. And the rest of the weekend, I was just like, it was like nothing happened. And I wasn't triggered. I wasn't bothered. I wasn't like I normally am. And I'm just like, okay. So if anybody's in that listening to this right now and they're in that situation, it like Kevin said, it's the inner work that gets that out there. If you're triggered by something, it's generally not them, it's you. And we don't want to hear that.
Yeah, and it's funny, like every time we're in situations as human beings, right? And we get upset or the upset happens. Upset could be anything from sad, anger, frustrated, like things that are just like a negative kind of a feeling that you go, ugh. And those are all our own dealings with that are surfacing. And a friend of mine, Joe Nunziata, who is, I just love this guy. I've known him about 20 years, and he talks about releasing negative energy. And he says, that we have bottled up our crap when we were younger, and then we store it, and then when things happen, and the story he always uses, which is I think is wonderful, you're in a grocery store and somebody bangs your cart and you get all upset, and it's like, what is it that you're really upset about? Is it the banging of the cart, or is it what it means by that happening, or somebody cutting you off? What does that mean, right? And you start going, oh my god. And it's usually your own dealing or your own crap, like, you know,
Mhm.
insecurity of some kind, a fear of some kind. And it's like, it has nothing to do with the other person, because the other person goes, and but oftentimes the other person doesn't even realize what they've done because they're in their own world, stuck in their own crap. Right. And it's like,
Yep.
God, I put so much into the meaning into this other thing. And this is why it's the inner work is so critical. Right. And yeah, I'm telling
Yes.
you, easier said than done. And I know the show is not about that, but it's just like,
Honestly, it is, because overcoming is taking that step when when it's easier said than done, right? We've had so many people come on and share their overcoming story, and but the one thing that they all have in common is they just kept taking that step. And and that's basically what overcoming is all about, right? If we're being unstoppable because we keep taking that next step, and we allow ourselves to take a deep dive in and really say, okay, what is really bothering me? And not to put a shameless plug in it, but that's what we do at my Operation Hope program that will be starting up in a couple of weeks. So we take those people that are triggered and irritated and have no idea why, and we deal with that and give the purpose back. And so if anybody wants information on that, simply message me and we'll get you that information. But you're right, it's just one of those things. But that's what's being unstoppable is all about.
yeah. Well, it's that whole thing. Life's momentum, right? Like if we all, COVID was a great example of that. Here we are, we all stuck in our homes. What survived? What thrived? Nature just keeps
Yeah.
going, right? Like grass grew through cement. Animals came out of the woodwork and came in. Sea creatures came back to the seas in Venice. Like things that were never happening because of us, but life goes on, things go on, and that's that unstoppable. So you're on to something. Keep it up. This is great. Thanks for watching, everybody. We had a great time.
Well, and then how do you be unstoppable though when tragedy hits, right? And
Yeah.
that's
So
a part of your story.
yeah, it is. And
Powerful
I would,
story.
well, it's interesting, and we'll get into that. And it's something that I cannot put my finger on. I don't know what it is, but it's like this. It's this inside feeling of just keep going, just keep like it's doesn't make sense.
Yep.
When we go into the story, you go, what? Like how in the hell? Like, and I've heard people tell me their stories before my
Mhm.
tragedy, and it was like, I don't know how they, like, I don't know if I could continue. I don't know what I could do. Right. And I'm going, how is it you keep going? And it's like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. But it's this thing of just keep going. Like, it's like, just keep going. Next step. How you just said, like, next step.
Yeah.
That's it.
And sometimes it's like taking a deep breath and taking a faith walk. I don't know about you, but in in the darkest moments of grief, I really had to just take a deep breath. I'm like, God, what is this all for? And sometimes people get angry at God, and it's like, well, if he really exists, then why did my dad die, or why did my son die, or why did whoever die, right? And it's in those moments that you're being tested, whether you like it or not. And in those moments is where we're being chiseled. All the old stuff is falling apart. And I can speak from experience. When I watched my dad die of cancer, right, it was the worst week ever, and
Mm,
yet we still managed to. And I kept thinking, the outside world is going, I'm sitting here watching my dad's chest like this. The outside world doesn't even have a clue of what's going on inside this house. And I'm just expected to carry on.
Yep.
Right. And like, how do you do that? Well, one moment at a time sometimes.
It's exactly it. And that's, I know for me, that's my story, right? It's like, like you, my dad died like 91. I was 27, and it was like, oh my God, and he was 53. And I thought, wow, he's so old at the time, right? And I just turned 60 thinking, holy crap, I've outlived him. And I'm feeling like I still feel young. So he must have felt young, in that time, right? And it was tough to lose a dad. But when my son passed away in 2021, it was like somebody ripping the heart out of my chest. I don't know how else to describe it. I never have felt emotional pain like that. And I played hockey. So I got a lot of pucks to the head, trust me. Fell down many times, and and like this was pain like I had never felt pain, and heaving. And I feel, when people say, they've lost their child, it's like, now I understand. Before it'd be like, oh, that's sad, I feel for you, must be tough, must be hard. And now it's like, I don't know how you do it, because you do so much for your children. I think as a parent, you come into this world, and you're taken care of by your parent. Then there's this transition period where you're just figuring yourself out, and then you become the parent, and then you realize, kind of like, holy crap, somebody's dependent on me. So I've got to be my best. Be your best, right? They kind of one of the mottos that I talk about. And it's like, okay, so here I am, I'm trying to be and then you bring this child up, and my son was 29, and
That is
he
young.
was an adult. He was beyond the 7, 8, 10, 12 years old. And I don't care what age a child dies. Losing a child is it's just wrong in the scheme of life. Do you know what I mean? Like, you lose the generation ahead of you. You go, okay, get it. They're older than I am, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You can't rationalize under than you, because you go, why don't you just take me? Like, let them live longer, whatever. And I feel for every parent that go through it. And my story is kind of interesting. We can jump into it here if you want, but it's
Absolutely. Let's
you
jump
know
into it.
after the hockey world, I was like, kind of like, what are we gonna do? What am I doing? I had moved my family to Arizona. We lived there for a couple of years, and we said, we're too Canadian. We came back, and we loved Arizona, but it was just like culture shock, things going on. It was just like, I love the Four Seasons. Came back, still was in pro hockey, get to work a few more years up here doing the same thing. So I got to fly down to Arizona, but still at home in Toronto, which was cool. And it was like, okay, came to an end 2012. And it was my wife saying, we kind of looked and said, like, let's just get work to get work. And went back to the corporate world, had a cushy job in terms of, financially doing well and everything, but it was just not satisfying as whatever. And in 2015, my wife had said, my daughter's in grade 10. We're going to go across the country. And we bought a motorhome, and we went from Newfoundland to BC to the Yukon for
Wow.
13 months. And we just like, let's go. And we literally just packed everything up, put everything in boxes, see you later. And we went, and it was a lot, my wife's brainchild, so I take no credit, but it was a great experience from who am I, what am I about? Because when you meet other people in other walks of life, and especially in a phase that's not visiting, like, and I think people get it when they go, oh, if I travel, if I go on a vacation, that's one thing. You're kind of like soothing yourself, see you later. When
Mhm.
you go on a trip, and this is now your way of living, it's a different story. You shop different, you think different, you do, like, you're kind of hanging out. I mean, it was our motorhome, it was our home, it was our living room, it was our kitchen, it was just home on wheels. And we met so many interesting people across the country, people from all over the world, talked about all kinds of things. But the one thing that was kind of common was people are looking for this inner peace, joy, something, or escaping, trying to get away from the pain problems that they're having. And it was like, yeah, like, this was kind of an interesting thing for me. And it was like, so what do I want? So we did the trip. I came back, and I said, well, I wasn't really sure, so I'll do some consulting. So for a couple of years, I was kind of on my own. 2020 hit, and we all know what happened in 2020. You know,
Mhm.
thank God.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so now I'm stuck in the house. Like, okay, whatever. And I'm like, what am I going to do for like a year? So everything became Zoom, and just Zoom this, Zoom that, right?
Yeah.
And my son went to school. He went to Toronto Film School, and as a parent, I was proud. He graduated. He was in video game. Watched him. They hired him at graduation. Fantastic. So he had been working there a couple of years, and he goes, "Dad, you should go back to school." And I went, "What? What? At 57, go back to school? Are you nuts?" And then my wife said, "You should go back to school." And I went, "Oh, yes, dear."
That's what every wife wants to hear. Yes, dear.
Yep. So I was like, "All right." And I took film production. I was like, you know what? Years ago, there was an interest. When I was chasing my dream for hockey, I had done a TV show, wrote a book, and I was like, maybe film production. So I got into film production. And during my first term, so we did 12 weeks, 6 terms. And during my end of the first term, my son said, "You know what, Dad? I'm leaving Toronto Film School. I'm not gonna work there anymore, but I'm gonna go get my degree in computer science. So with that, with my video game diploma, I'll be set." I was like, "Way to go! Proud of you. This is great." And then he went to university, and he did exactly what he did in Lakehead. At Lakehead, he did exactly what he did in Toronto Film School. Went till midnight, studied, got A's, studied hard, burned a candle both ends, got 2 part-time jobs. And sadly, on November 5th, 2021, I was in my second term, and he had worked late till like 10, 11 o'clock. And he told his boss, "Hey, I'll see you online. We'll play a video game at midnight or something." And he had a car accident, and it was, he fell asleep at the wheel and literally went into the back end of an 18-wheeler. We got a phone call at midnight, and like, I was asleep, and it was like, "What?" And the police knocked on the door and said, "You have to call this police officer." I'm like, holy crap. What is this? Like, you can't even, I think my brain went into kind of this, just do ABC. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
don't be emotional. Just do this, do this, do this.
Yeah.
And then he was on the operating table for like 4 hours, 4 hours. And we get the call at like 4:45 in the morning, and they said, he's passed. And it was from then to for like 3-4 hours, this pain that I could not understand. And he was up in Thunder Bay, so we had to go get him. And that was like, from Toronto, it was like, 2-day drive, 17 hours. And we were just like, holy crap, like, what are we going to do? Went up there, we dealt with all the paperwork and did all that. And that was all the mechanics of death, of dealing with somebody dying, right?
Yeah.
The emotion, I don't know how it happened, but somehow his spirit like literally enveloped me and was like, "You got this, keep going, don't worry." And I was in school, and I had teachers saying to me, instructors saying to me, "I don't know how you're doing it. Like, what are you doing here? What's going on?" I go, no, I got to do this. I have to do this. And I kept going, put the nose to the grindstone, graduated. They hired me at graduation, and they were like, we can't let you go. And think of the perspective you bring to the table. You are, you're a parent, and you're a student, corporate, 35 years corporate background, like, you understand business. And I was like, okay. Meanwhile, while we were in school, I had classmates, and there was like 4 guys, and we just happened to get along, and all different ages, 40s, 20s, like one was 18, 19. We just got along, and it was almost like this adopted brotherhood slash, sons. And they came to me. We created a production company that, in my mind, was like, it's going to give me something to do, like, to keep my mind busy and occupied.
Right.
But it really became about how to make a difference in other people's lives, because let's story tell. Well, you tell stories, and what do? Well, you help people, you make them feel better, whatever. And so we started doing short movies, and in school we had to do it anyway for assignments. And we started taking them. We created 5 short films. We won 50 festivals around the world. We were like, what the heck is going on? And so I look today and I go, we've done 7. We've got 6 feature possibilities, like feature films that have come to us. I'm living this life of amazement, like totally enjoying my life, career, everything. And
Right.
meanwhile, I have this pain of missing, and there's something not there, And as a buddy of mine said, there's a scar on you now. Don't try and remove the scar. It's fine. Like he's the wound is healing. He's gone. Like, and how you deal with it is entirely up to you. And I've had so many people say, "Oh my God, you're leaving a legacy for him and stuff." And it's really just wanting to do good by him, because he was a great student in college, and and great to work with. And as a parent, you hear about your kids and somebody goes, "Oh my God, love your kid, he's this, he's that," and it's like, so you probably think, okay, did a good job, and I'm really happy for him, because that's what you want, is really good for I think everybody wants good for your children, kind of thing.
Mhm.
And I now just go every day and just say, my job is not about me, it's about everybody else. How do I help other people? But it's what I do at Toronto Film School. It's what I do at Mark Productions. It's like helping partners help. I have 4 partners, and it's like, what do we do? How do we make this better? How do we change somebody's life for them to be maybe a spark? Maybe it's one little thing that just puts them in a new direction that goes, you know what, my life's better. And if we can have any input or some say in that, then that's what we're here to do. And the journey's crazy, because I go, the worst things that can happen is with health or somebody else's health. Other than that, it's like, what really matters? If you don't have health, you have nothing,
Mhm.
right? And by having your health and having your family around you, your friends around you, and by the way, family doesn't always mean blood, right? Like, so, because I think I've come to learn over the years, like we all talked about, or we grew up, or I did anyway, in the 70s, 80s, hearing about, blood and the family. And yes, it's true. But there are families that are very dysfunctional. Things don't happen. And you meet a friend, or you meet someone that cares about you, and you become a really cool friend, like a cool family person. You go, I'm closer to that person than my own blood relatives, right? And so when I say family, it's really about those that you bond with, you connect with, you care about, you want to learn more about each other, right? And it is about over time. So long-winded story, but the journey is, for me, chasing the dream, believing in it, never stopping. Doesn't matter what anybody tells you. If you believe in you, great. There's a friend of mine, Dan Blackburn. He goes, when you believe in you as much as you want others to believe in you, that's when success finds you. And
Yes.
it's like, holy cow. Like, it's so easy to go, hey, Dorothy, do you like this? Do you want this? I keep plugging, right? But
Right.
do I believe in it? And when I believe in it,
Mhm.
then it becomes like the wow factor. And I think that's what happens with a lot of people, is that they do a job or they do something and they're not really totally into it, right? And then they wonder why it doesn't succeed, or it's like, oh, it's not working. You go, yeah, do you totally buy into it, right?
100%. I just love all that you said, and thank you for sharing, Kevin, your son's story, because you're right. When you share that, it's powerful. And there's somebody listening today that maybe just lost a son, or has lost a child, and they're like, "How do I move on from here?" It's not that you're going to ever forget your child or your loved one that passed away, because they're always going to be there for you. And when you said, family is not blood, 100%. I am truly fortunate and blessed to have met 6 other incredible women. I'd say about a year before my dad was diagnosed with cancer. And if it wasn't for meeting those women, my life would not be where I am today, because those women, even though they're from the States, surrounded me in that time and just gave me the permission. If I was having a day where I just wanted the world to go, leave me alone, it was okay to do that, right? And it was okay to be angry, and it was okay to, just really um sit there and cry. I was doing so great until he died in September. December, the Christmas music comes on, and I heard the "Oh, I want to wish you a Merry Christmas." And I was coming home from work. I was right in front of the Circle K by my house, and that song came on. And all I did was have a vision of my dad dancing to that song, and I lost it. And that was 3 months later. Like, you're right. When you're in the, for me, it was like, okay, well, we got to get mom settled. Mom's mom's never been by herself in forever, and so, take care of dad's remains and do this and make sure everything's good. And then 3 months later is when I had the time to decompress and just have a breath, you know. And I come home and my husband's like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm just like, I just hit me.
Yeah.
And there's
It's
still
never the
days.
first year. So Dorothy, here's the interesting thing. So I remember when my dad died, my mom said something. She goes, it's not the first year. A lot of people think, oh, it's the first this, first this. You know what happens? It's when it goes year 2 and 3, when everybody else's life goes back to normal and
Yeah,
the newness, lack
yeah,
of a better word, the newness goes and
yeah,
their life goes back to normal and yours doesn't, because now you're living a new normal. And
yeah,
that it actually, what you've gone through is probably that same thing. I know for me, year 2 was probably a very, like, it last 2023 was kind of the weird year. And like you, like walking down the street, like not thinking anything, and all of a sudden a song comes on, or somebody wears something, or I see somebody that happened. He had a beard and he had long hair because it was just his thing. And I'll see that and it'll be like, oh my God, like I just saw, like I just saw him, right? And it's this crazy thing, and break down. Because people say to me, hey, how do you stay so positive? I go, if you don't see me on the days or the hours or the moments where I'm like, I got to be alone. I can't do this. I can't. I'm trying to deal with a moment right now that I can't deal with, and I don't know how to deal with it. Really, you know.
mhm. And I think you're 100% right, Kevin. And I think in those moments, whatever we need to do to get through those moments is what we do, and we can't make ourselves wrong for it. And nobody will know what it's like. Like I have no idea what it's like to lose a child, nor would I say to you, "Oh, Kevin, that is so sad. I know what it feels like." No, you don't. I don't. And
Yeah.
and everybody's experience is different, and it was weird. I had one particular person post on my social media, "Oh, get over it. Life is all about life and death, or death and taxes." And I was just like, okay. So that person was blocked.
Yep.
And I'm just like, you have no idea. Yes. And he was 69 years old, so it's not like he was old, but that doesn't even matter. What matters is people have empathy. You have no idea what somebody's going through. And in that moment, they could, just like you said, have a flash, and it could completely wipe them out for hours. But all we need is somebody to say, "Hey, what do you need?" Or give you a hug, or
Exactly it. And
some.
that's where I think one of the biggest lessons for me, and it's tough as heck, and that is quit judging people.
Yeah,
And it's easy to judge. It's easy. Oh, you made this comment on my thing, or you cut me off, or you were rude, and blame, right? Like the first thing we do. The reality is we don't know what that person's going through. We don't. We don't know if they've just lost somebody. We don't know if they've just had something. Did they lose a job? Did they get lost money? Did they bang into somebody? Do they feel guilty because they did something? Do they, are they ashamed? Most of the time it's all about shame anyway. Like this is how we live our life, right? And we're like, oh crap, and we don't want to reveal the skeletons in our closet. Like, how are we going to look to other people? How are we going to look like, oh my God, what are they going to think about me? I've, you know, I sit here and I'm with you now, and I'm like, whether anybody's watching or nobody's watching, or they're watching this and it's a recording and they're doing it later, my thing is, don't judge. Who am I to judge you? Like, I don't know what you're going through. I don't know the pains. I don't know the problems and everything. And what right do I have to do that? Because it's not, it just doesn't make sense. And what are we doing when we do it? When we do judge and stuff, we're only putting our own friggin' life experiences on it anyway. At the end of
mhm,
the day, think of it like you said earlier, you just said, it's our experience. If 50 of us were in the room and we all lost a child, or we all lost a parent, or we all lost a job, or we, like, something happened, let's call it, of any, money, weight, whatever, health. If we all went through the same thing, same situation, guess what? We only have our own experience. It
mhm,
doesn't matter how you could say, oh, this was similar. Maybe we could see it, but the
yeah,
same people looking at the same situation will have a different opinion. So you know what? It's really our own experiences anyway. And so somebody not liking your post or not liking what you had said or whatever, right? It's like, hey, you don't know what they're going through. You wish them well. You say, hey, thanks for taking the time to stop. You know what? I know you got other things in your life going on, and you still took a time, and you still, you went at it and went there. And this is not me learning this stuff. I'm listening to some people who I'm going, yeah, you're waking me up, because, being the old white guy, trust me. My daughter keeps reminding me, going, Dad, you're the wrong person. Your generation caused all these problems. So it's like, well, okay. So I'm like walking around going, all right, I gotta, fix up life. But at the same time, it's only what I know that I can bring to the table. And yeah, we talked about kind of like, how do you get over things? I think you just decide. I think you just go, do I want to keep feeling crappy, or do I not want to feel crappy? I feel crappy a lot of times because I miss them, and I wonder, should I have, could I have, guilt, shame, all these kind of things. But there's tons of things in my life I'm not happy about, that I made wrong decisions. Or I say wrong. I made a decision that today I look back, go, what did you do that for? And nobody's going to beat me up more than I'm going to beat me up.
100%.
I don't care. I don't care who's out there. And I think that's everybody, because there is nobody in this world. The physical abuse is one thing. The mental abuse is so much more painful, of like you beating yourself up to say you weren't good enough, you didn't this, and shame on you, and all the things. And somebody else goes, what are you talking about? It's no big deal. Yeah, but you don't understand. Yeah, that's right. We don't.
Yeah. And 100%. And I, as you're talking, I'm just like, yep, been through that, done that. Like I'm my own worst critic. And what I realized though, and I used to beat myself up so bad that I would be depressed for like months. And then I thought, what am I like? No one else is casting that stone on me except for myself. Right. So having grace for myself and forgiveness for myself was one of the hardest things to do, but it was 100% necessary to get me to where I'm at today. That doesn't mean that there isn't moments like being a step parent will teach you so many things like in life about yourself, about your own childhood, and things like that, where I like, if I could beat myself up all day long about the things that I've done or said as a step parent in the last 7 years, where I'm like, seriously, like, and but then you got to give yourself, take a step back and say, okay, wait a minute, you're just learning. They're just a kid, give yourself some grace, go for a walk, and talk it out afterwards. I'm a firm believer that if I say or do something that I know is wrong, I go back and I admit that I was wrong and apologize for it, and work it out and stuff like that. But you're right, we're our own worst critic, but we
Mhm.
also have to give ourselves grace and
Oh, big time.
forgiveness.
Big time. And first of all, it's not an easy thing to say you're wrong. Like it's tough. I mean, people say, oh no, I say wrong all the time. And you go, really? Like you think about something where you're going to be adamant about, or something you believe in very, very strongly. It
Mhm.
won't matter how you spin it. You'll find an excuse and go, no, 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 it's fine. I was right. And this is how it is. And at the end of the day, it's your own beliefs and values, right? On how you do things. And I think that's the crux to what gets you through a tough time. And it's your beliefs and your values. What do you value? And what do you believe? What do you believe about the situation? What do you believe about, yourself in this situation? What do you believe about the time that it happened, or, the situation of whatever it is, right? Going into school, I like funny, crazy thing for me was I went into school thinking, man, I just hope I pass. Because when I went to high school, I went to school in Montreal, failed grade 11. So at grade 11, that's when you graduate in Quebec. Failed grade 11, had to go back. I was like, oh, like this isn't embarrassing, like totally good. Then I go to college, quit college. It's like, well, so me in education, I was like, whatever. So to go back to school, I was like, how is this going to go over in my, it's like, holy crap. And yet life experience stuff taught me, my values changed, my beliefs, had changed about myself and how I want to do things. and everything that you just talked about, like, it's how do you look at yourself? And I finally just said, let it go, do the best you can. Like, it was like, okay, let it go, let it go. Just be the best I can be at any moment in time, right? And if that means respectful to my classmates, asking questions, I know that I probably annoyed 30-40% of the class because I'd ask a ton of questions because I didn't know. But when I was younger, I was afraid to ask a question. If I asked a question, I'd look stupid. They're going to laugh at me, whatever. So I'm not asking, even though I didn't know, and half the room didn't know. And so now it's a bit older. It's kind of like, yeah, whatever. And I got to tell you, one of the things that is interesting, and I don't know if other people listening, watching go through this, but if you've lost a child, you put things that you thought were important very much aside, and the things that you kind of gave attention to sort of all of a sudden become important, and great examples of that are your time, who you're spending your time with, the people around you, and then kind of like, what are you going after? Like, what is it you're really like, like, okay, I'm trying to go up the corporate ladder. Really? Is that what you want to do? Or are you going to start saying, my ambition is, for me now, it's about peace. I just love inner peace. And when I'm at inner peace, things flow. Things happen. Look, you and I, we're out together. We're having this interview. We're on the show, being able to talk about things. If I had said like, oh, please have me, you got to have me, please on me. Like, it's this resistance feeling, and people feel it, right? Like, there's just, where it's like, no, it's fine. And things come to you. And then you go, how is this possible? This is the part, I think, of life that is very interesting, that our little brains can't even compute. We can't figure out how this amazing, miraculous thing, how does something like, I'll call it a tragedy of losing my son, have me walking days and days going, man, I'm so lucky I got this job. I'm lucky I got this work. I'm lucky I get to do this. I'm lucky I get to, make movies and get to meet people. And we've, can I kind of tip my hand to our latest
Exactly. Yes.
latest movie? The latest short, it's a documentary short, and it's on a woman. And so here's the interesting thing, why I talk about like the how life plays out. So I went to the Central Hockey League, and we had 18 teams in the league, and I was director of business development. So I worked with all the teams, traveled to the teams, talked to them, helped them market. Everything was great. Never thinking any of it. This is like 2007, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. Like, nothing of it. December of 2023, I'm introduced to this woman, and this guy says to me, man, we should do a movie on her, because you know who her son is? Her son played for the Team Canada World Junior Team in 2020, scored the winning goal. And I'm like, oh, so it had my attention at hockey. I'm like, how cool is that? This is great. So the more I'm like, this is awesome. And I'm thinking, oh, maybe we'll do a story on the son. Like, he's the NHL guy. He's got drafted to the LA Kings. Oh my God, how cool is this? I get talking with her. She starts revealing her story. And there's something in me that's going, it isn't about the son. The son's a piece of the puzzle. It's really about the mom. Start talking. Her ex-husband played in the league that I worked in.
Of course he did.
And I'm like, oh my God. And then she goes, oh, I'm friends with one of the previous owner of one of the teams, who we knew, because we knew the owners of the teams. I'm like, holy cow. And she goes, oh yeah, my ex-husband and this guy, Robbie, yeah, they were friends. And I'm like, oh my God, I went and interviewed with that guy in a night. Like, all of a sudden there's all these connections starting to happen. I'm like, I got to do this movie. This is crazy, right?
Yeah.
To the point where she's trusting us to do this story. We've just edited it. We are going to be world premiere in Niagara Film Festival with this movie. Like, how do you write this stuff? This is life moving the pieces. And there's a part of me that goes, it's my kid having his hand in my life somehow, some way to go, things are possible when you didn't think it was possible to make things happen. And so every day, it's just a day of like privilege. It's just, I'm glad to be alive. I'm here to do good wherever I can. Have I made mistakes? A million. You know what I mean? Like, the line starts here with where mistakes happen. Do you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I'm getting in line. And it's like, yeah, you said you forgive. You got to forgive people. You got to forgive yourself and go, yeah, you know what? I'm not perfect, man. I make a ton of stupid mistakes. I think we all do. And then we walk around with the shame. And it's when we have the shame that we don't know how to deal with things, instead of coming right out and saying, made the mistake. That's why I say it's easier to say I screwed up it's easier said than done. Do you know what I mean? In
Mhm.
that regard.
100%. And I'm so glad that you said that you feel that your success or the people that have been put in front of you has been a gift from your son. I love that you said that because after my dad died, I used to see butterflies and eagles like every the week after I went back to work. I usually walk on my lunch hour, and I had this butterfly come right at my head. Like I've never had it come directly at my head before. And I was just like, what the heck is that? I it literally ducked on the side of the road. So anybody who saw me would have thought, what the heck is she doing? So, make a long story short, one of my friends is intuitive, and I have never asked anybody to do this before. And I said, if he's willing to talk, let me know if he's willing to talk. And I asked, he was, and I said, hey, were you that butterfly that tried to behead me? And he goes, well, duh. So, and then if I'm traveling by myself, I always see an eagle everywhere I go. I could be in Michigan, I could be in Indiana, Illinois, whatever, wherever I go, I see him. And I'm just like, well, thank you, Dad. He's keeping me safe. He's there no matter what I am doing, and I get comfort in that, I guess. And people can say, oh, you're just going crazy. Well, you can say whatever you want. I really don't care. Um, but it's just like it's a piece. And never in my life did I ever think that I would be having 3 shows, that I would be talking to a film producer on my show, as somebody who was bullied all through school, didn't want to be center of attention. Here I am now making other people, interviewing other people and putting that and having my own Roku channel. Like I never expected any of this. And my dad knew about the one show before he died. I had wrote a book, and he goes, "You're kidding me, right?" And I'm like, "No." So I don't know if he actually read it, but he knew about it. He had a copy of it. And then I had this show started, and he's just like, "I don't understand you, but I'm proud of you, and just keep going." And so, yeah, to think here we are, 3 shows deep. I have another one in the works, possibly 2 movie deals. Like seriously, like this is just incredible.
Right.
Uh, and
And the magic to keep it going. So what keeps you going? When I say, the magic, like there's something that is beyond, I think, our comprehension sometimes, because there are people that go, screw it, I'm done. Like, and check out. Like, and sadly, I do know people that have said, I'm out of here. Like, I can't do this anymore, and they suicide or mental health, or they put themselves into physical harm, and it's there because they don't know any other way, and they go. And so, no, I don't think there's any right way. I really don't believe there's any right way to deal with grief, and there's no wrong way to deal with grief. You just do with what you think and what you feel at the time. And at the end of the day, it's your life, and that's the piece. It's like, okay, so what am I going to do with it? I'm not here for very long. So what the heck? That's my mindset and attitude anyway. I just go,
100%.
what am I going to do? Sit back and cry, and like, which happens anyway. You said like music. Yeah. Like I can remember like this happened like, I think 2 nights ago. We just happened to be watching a movie, and they just started talking about, oh, people who lost their children. It's like, boom, right? Like out of nowhere. Right. And any other day, no big deal. But at that particular moment, it was tough to hear and handle, and I've had people say, oh, you got to do your story into a movie. And I'm thinking, who the heck would watch it? Nobody care. Yeah, it's like,
Oh,
right.
sir. Okay, well now I'm going to challenge you because you said that. Because I only wrote the book because I was having a conversation with my girlfriend, and I said, when you think you've gone through a lot, or you've been through a lot, and I feel that I should get my story out there. And she said, you should. And I said, but no one's going to read it. And she said, I would. And so that was the catalyst for me writing the book. So now, sir, I challenge you to get your movie out there.
All right. We've got some interesting stories on things that have happened in life and stuff. So yeah, I guess and that's what it is. It really comes down to a good story, right? And you know what's interesting? So here's totally side topic, but it goes in line with what we did at Mark Productions. And it said everything starts with a good story. And so if we go back for thousands of years, how did information get passed? How did knowledge get passed? And it was through storytelling. And today we call it documentary or a fiction story or a nonfiction book. And it's really sharing knowledge, wisdom, experiences with other people in a form that maybe resonate with them. And how do you want to go? Some people like listen to podcasts. You listen to this, you're going, yeah, this is great. Some people are like 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off. See you later. Some people read a book. Oh my God, they read it cover to cover. Others like, yeah, I read 5, 10 pages. That's, it's not for me. Others, it's conversation. Right? Like I need to be like I'm in with you right now, going, Darcy, talk to me, and they feel the energy and they go, right? But what is it? It's the transmission of knowledge, which is storytelling. And it's like I look at the guys, and I say guys, my partners, we say the same thing. That's the foundation of the company. Let's build storytelling in everything we do, whether it's a commercial, and we did one for Gamblers Anonymous. And the woman who is in charge said to us, guys, you're going to change lives. Like this isn't just, oh yeah, you did a commercial, thanks, see you later. It was a public service announcement we did for them, but it was an actual public service announcement that was about helping somebody who might be struggling out there. And we kind of sat back and went, guys, like this isn't a job to do a job. And so the company has become, and kind of we've all said it as owners, my son's kind of at the crux, being able to bring us together. And it's hard to undo this. Like these guys are so close to me. We're like, okay, let's go. And by the way, we don't all agree on everything we do, as far as work and job and stuff, but there's this underlying thing that we're there for each other. We're going to make it happen, and we've got some big projects. And one of them is if everything goes well, it's a $20 million movie that we're waiting on the rights to sign off. And if we get it, like we're pretty excited with like where we're at and how we're going to do things. And we look and go, this is just a journey of sharing what we love doing, and movie making, film making, commercials, public service, music videos. That's our stick. We're like, let's do it,
Love that. With that, we're going to bring on the amazing Kimberly Genovese, our roving reporter. Welcome to the show, lady.
Hello, hello, hello. What a great show tonight.
I know, right?
Absolutely fantastic. Always is. Always
Always.
is. And it's just always great to get to be in the back room, listening as an audience member. So really fabulous. Really
I didn't ramble too much, did I, Kimberly?
You did a fantastic job, Kevin. You brought up a couple of things though, that I don't want to step over, right? And especially towards the end there, the thing about, so first of all, thank you for sharing your story tonight, and I so appreciate your humility, and there are so many people out there, and that's the intention of the show, right? That might have just recently dealt with, such a horrible, right? Like life is so not a given, even though we act like it. I was with my mom today, and the conversation around like, nothing's guaranteed, and she's dealing with some health issues with her leg, and I mean, like a hard time getting around, right? And there's like right now, and she lives alone, and there's a concern about her falling, right? And so it's like, hey, when I call, make sure you call back, because in my mind, and the mind is a scary place to hang out in, right? But then in retort, right? Well, and so could I, right? Like nobody is guaranteed the next moment.
No.
None of us are, right? And so having a situation like you've had with your son, and my heart and my prayers are 100% yours, right? So in the world that someone, even one person, got to hear tonight, like some kind of guidance, and that you brought some light to their darkness if they've just lost someone in a tragic accident or whatever, right? Definitely game changing and really, really wonderful. And when you were asking Dorothy, it was such a brilliant question, like what's the thing? Like what is that thing? That makes the difference. That's the difference between the person who just keeps trucking along and, no matter how hard or how, like Dorothy and I like to say all the time, because God gives us these huge visions, right? These Grand Canyon sized visions, and sticking with a grand set, the bridging, over to the reality of that vision coming into existence. Sometimes it's like, yeah, it takes something to keep trucking along, right? I just wanted to put into the space. It's like, it's just being in communication.
Mm.
Just one
Mm.
person. The difference between suicide or not suicide, homicide, not homicide, right? Staying with it one more day.
Yeah.
And that, and to your very point, right? Like, who you hang out with matters. And who you communicate whatever it is you're dealing with matters. And so just to point to that. And then have you seen the movie Hacksaw Ridge?
Yes, I did.
So when you were sharing, when Dorothy was egging you on, and she's so great at that, right? And challenging you to get your story out there, if your story touched, again, just one person, just
Mm.
one, you know it one person can change the planet.
Yeah.
One person can change the
It's
planet.
true.
So,
It's you're absolutely right, Kimberly, and it's something that is something in my mind where I go, make sure I keep my ego in check so I don't become like really like, oh, it's all about me and I'm gonna make that change. It's like I really got to
yeah,
go. This is not
yeah,
about that. It's about where are they at? Are
yeah,
they open to hearing, listening, and just going, here's my perspective. Like,
yeah, yeah. There is a definite dance, right? There's a dance between, my story is the most important story on the planet, which is one end of the spectrum, and that may be true, right? And then but then there's the whole other side of the spectrum of like, my story's not important. There's so many other stories out there. Eh, it's finding that beautiful balance in the middle, that harmony, that grace, that richness of just share it, and we can't thank you enough for sharing it tonight on the show.
well, thank you guys. It's you're welcome, and it's been a pleasure to be with you guys and have a chat. I can't believe we've been talking this long. I thought it was like 5-10 minutes.
Well, and with that, we definitely want to hear your fundamentals. And with the intention in this section, of course, is very much so what we've been talking about all night, is to kind of wrap it up in such a way where, if someone was to be left with, if this was the last time you got a chance to share something, what would the capital FUN, little DUH, capital MENTALS be that you would want to leave people with?
Yeah, the biggest one is be your best. Like, be your best. And don't try and beat somebody else. And I struggled with that for so long. I just like, I'm going to be better than Dorothy because she's got the show and I got to make my show. No, it's not about you being better than Dorothy. It's about you being your best at any given time, at any moment, right? Your best on a sad day might be
Mm,
like 2% over what your best day might be. You know what I mean? Like, I'll be my best day. It's sad and I'm going to be okay with sad.
yeah,
You
so
know?
great. Yeah.
Yeah. The one that I learned from James Malinchak, this guy is the master. I had a chance to meet with him, talk with him, and he's serve first. It's when what happens when you become the source to someone else, and it becomes your driver. You get so fulfilled. You cannot explain it.
No.
I've had some great teachers over the years, and there's a fellow friend of mine, Nick in New Brunswick, and he talks about the law of reciprocity starts with giving. Like giving, like you think about that, you go, I want to get something. He goes, okay, if you want to get something, go give. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, watch the process. And it's like your action does something to actually reward you. And it can be as simple as a thank you. And if you pay attention, you're getting something, right? And it's like, holy cow. And when that got in, whammo.
Now, just not to step over it before going on to number 3, Kevin, would you agree though, if you're doing it as a formula to get something, that is not what you're talking about, right?
At all.
That actually doesn't work. To me, it's similar to when people will stand in a mirror and recite an affirmation expecting a return on that affirmation. It's like, no, that's not how it works. That's actually if you cannot give without any intention to get anything back, that's where it gets tricky. That's where the dance gets tricky, right? Where it's like you really are living in the truth of, wow, this feels amazing to give to this person or to this entity or whatever the case might be.
So here's the thing. So what do you think about when someone says, okay, if you want to get something, you got to go give? Like, what's the first initial, think of those words when I said it, what came to you guys like right away? Is it resistance or is it like, oh yeah, no problem?
For me, it was, yeah, no problem, because I've been doing it for 3 years.
Yeah, it's funny because it is a very natural way. I'm very grateful for the gifts that God has blessed me with, and so I don't know how to do it any other way. If anything, it's, I err on over, right, which has its own dangers to it, right. At what I hear when you say it though is warning. Like, make sure there's a warning on that label for the people that are listening to it as a formula.
Right. And that's the thing. It really comes down to your beliefs and your values and what you truly believe. If you really believe that you're worthy of something, you will get it. Like you because you're going, I'm worth it. It's not about you going, oh, I gotta have this and and because I've done that so many times and I'm like, oh no, it's gotta be now. It's gotta be now. It's gotta be. You know what? It'll happen when it's meant to happen, if it's meant to
Amen.
happen. Right. And
Yes.
the piece of inside for me is like, can I be okay with me? At any moment in time, can I be okay with me? With all my mistakes, with all my BS, with all my hangups, with all my problems, and then with all my good and my heartedness and my willing to help. And it's like, yeah, I can stand there. Great. Then watch what happens. And
So
that's
beautiful.
big,
So
right?
beautiful. So
Yeah.
beautiful. I like to tell people, think of it as like Christmas time and gift giving.
Mm.
If
Well
you're
said.
giving gifts, right, from a place of, well, I'm going to give Dorothy a gift because I know if I give her one, she'll give me one back. Then just don't even bother. It's just, like I
Like,
mean,
right, here's $50 for Christmas. Oh, great. Here you go. Here's $50 back. Like,
yeah.
serious.
Yeah, it's like now, I mean, you can play that. Like you can be playfully engaged in that. Like that's cool. That's definitely not what you're pointing to, Kevin. You're in your fundamentals. It's much sort of like, oh my God, I'm so excited. It's Christmas because I get to, right? Dorothy's been telling me all year she wants to go to Hawaii, and I so can't wait to hand her the gift, which is a ticket to Hawaii. Right? You know what I'm saying? Like,
I'm
it's
glad to receive.
like being so excited to get to give that to someone.
Right. And that's the thing that people don't realize is the receiving part of giving is when somebody's reaction, how they feel, what they give to you in energy.
Yes.
They may not
Yes.
buy you a gift, nothing, but the energy they give you fills you up so much that you go, oh my God, and you go, that's the gift.
That's it right there. Thank you, Kevin. That's what I wanted to point to, because that when people get that fundamentally, now we're lighting everybody up on a cellular heart soul level, and literally those kind of lights up can alter the planet overnight. So
Yep.
thank you for that, because that was a super rich second fundamental. So I really want to make sure they got that one. And so bring us home with number 3.
All right. So this is interesting because I've floated around many of, usually like there's like a bunch. And one of them that's sticking up for me now because it is kind of this piece that goes with today. And it's not about what you get from a relationship, but what you bring to a relationship. And it was what my dad used to say to me all the time. Life is not about what you know, but who you know. And I used to go, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. But I'm going to tell you something, like thinking of everything that's happened to me in life, I go, oh my God, it's always about who I knew, because I would learn a skill along the way. I could get somebody, I'd read a book, I'd have a meeting or whatever. But that piece of getting to know someone, that's like a wow factor. And if you can look at every relationship about what can I bring to this relationship? Holy cow. Now think about what we did in number 2, right? It's on, serving. And then you think about really about being your best. Holy cow. What is your life going to be like if that is what all those 3 things alone?
I love
Yes.
it. I love it. And thank you for that, because and this is where my humility gets in the way. Great way to close out the fundamentals by saying that it's sponsored by thekimber.com. And you specifically speak to the ritual at thekimber.com that I personally facilitate, which is the Rainmaker ritual. And it's all about practices to have your relationships be rich and rewarding and filled with everything you just spoke to, which is love and affinity and just unity. And
Yep.
being able to constantly be in relationships from a place of, my job is to shine a light on your gifts and vice versa,
Yep.
right? And
And
that's how we were designed.
I love this. Here's an interesting thing, and I leave everybody kind of with this, and that is, when you meet somebody and they tell you a story, they tell about them, and you go, oh my God, and you're so amazed by them, right? And they kind of disregard it, or they don't think they're quite good enough. And I've said this to so many people, why can't you see the beauty / amazingness that I see in you? Because when you do, look out, right? Like, it's like, and I think we are all guilty of it. We'll
Yep.
take for granted what we do. We don't think, and somebody goes, oh my God, you're amazing. And you go, what are you talking about? It's like, no big deal, whatever.
Yeah.
But we need to actually be in the moment, that when somebody acknowledges us for those things.
Yes, Kevin, thank you, thank you, thank you. That is one of my biggest, I dare say, passions in life. And Dorothy's she'll attest to it. I will slow people down. This is really big, guys. A great way to end the show is when you attempt to pour into someone and they don't let you. Slow that conversation down and really give them an opportunity. Exactly what you said, Kevin, and be like, you know what? I actually just poured into you, and I was very intentional to draw a light to the light that you are in my life, and it really occurred to me like you deflected it, and you're not letting it in. Can you say more about that? Like, what
Wow.
has you deflecting what I've just taken time and energy to pour into you?
That's powerful.
And let them share with you, right? Like, let them, and potentially, clear out what's in their way to receive. That's a game changer. That's a game changer.
The mic just dropped.
Pooh. Well, then it's a perfect time for me to hand it back to Dorothy.
So I just want to say one more thing about our sponsor. So tomorrow night they have a free event, which is called the 411. So go over to thekimber.com, get registered for that event. Tell them Dorothy and Kimberly sent you, and there we go. And I promise you, you will not regret it. It's from, what's the times again, Kimberly? I apologize.
It's 6 to 9 Central. And we actually use proven methods. Massive credit to Gary Keller and Jay Papazon and the One Thing, wherein we use systems and structures for people to literally have their dreams come true on a one-page document.
Wow.
And yeah, and we do, and to your point, we do that as a free event, 3-hour workshop that we offer every month. For just to your very point, that our commitment is to, we don't want anyone, for lack of funding, to say they don't have access to a community that's listening for their greatness and shining a light on their greatness.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So,
Very good.
yes. go get registered for that. And please go check out Mark's website, markdproductions.com. Go check out his short films that he's got out on there. I mean, it's amazing work that you've done, Kevin. I'm excited, to further our friendship along here and see how we may be able to collaborate on a couple of different projects. I'm excited about that. But I'm a Canadian. He's a Canadian. He's in hockey. I have to ask this question. Did you not throw up the other night after that game where we lost a freaking again?
That's a tough question.
Seriously.
Okay, the reason it's a tough question is I'm born and raised in Montreal. I worked at the National Hockey League. I worked in the Central Hockey League. And here's what I learned. We remain very neutral, and we don't pick any one team. All of our teams matter. And so I'm like, it's tough.
I had to hold it together. My husband would never vote for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I will never vote for the Detroit Red Wings. So I said, you cannot go for the Bruins. You just cannot. I will divorce you. You cannot. And he's, of course, had to go for the Bruins. And he's very much a shit stirrer. So when he always and then he's got to be like, oh, he's one of those. He's got to put it in your face. And I looked at him and I said, not a word. Not a word.
That's tough. I'm sure there was a ton of Leaf fans that were hurting. I'm a Connor McDavid fan. I'm a Connor McDavid fan. So Edmonton Oilers, let's go.
Funny you said that because my stepson is a Connor fan, and so I guess I will have to go for them next. However, I was really hoping that Toronto could go another step for the guys. Seriously, I've been rooting for them since 1967 to get into the World Series again. Or not World Series, Stanley Cup. And here we are. And so, as a Canadian, I was crushed the other night. But what
next season, as they say, next season.
There's always a next season. That's the beauty.
If I hear one more time we're rebuilding, I'm going to scream. And I think Tavares owes me a beer. Let's just say that. And with that, I had to ask, being a fellow Canadian and hockey guy, I had to ask, how to end on that kind of note. But anyways, thank you so much, Kevin. For joining us tonight, sharing your story about your son and your passion and getting stories out there at a next level. Thank you to everybody who is listening tonight. And don't forget to go check out Mark's website, markdproductions.com, and go to thekimbra.com tonight and register for the 411 event, which is tomorrow night. With that, guys, be unstoppable in all that you do. And remember, same time, same channel next week. Bye for now.
Bye, everybody.